Hello and a very warm welcome back to the garden. It always really surprises me how quickly the garden transforms from that kind of summer, late summer abundance into then autumn, and then suddenly winter is upon you. And I really think it's important after such a busy growing season that we as gardeners take a little bit of a break. For 2 or 3 weeks during December, just have a little bit of a break, put your feet up, don't worry about anything. But there's still a lot of winter remaining. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 things that I'm going to do this winter, mainly end of December, January, and then February, to really prepare for the next growing season so I can really get started on the front foot. For me, a big part of gardening is about looking at new things to try out and grow every single year. This is because I always believe it's important to challenge ourselves and push ourselves outside of our comfort zones and have something really exciting to look forward to, almost like a project. Now, this really started with me when I first grew oca, which is also known as New Zealand yam. In fact, this is by far the best crop I've ever grown, because before we've grown them actually in tyres, and we had some spare ones, and I thought plant them out in a raised bed here, and look how amazing this crop is. I am so excited. And I think it's really important that we look for the more unusual things because it's something different. It's really important to spice things up every single year. Otherwise we end up kind of falling into a bit of a rut. But it's these new exciting things that get us looking forward to the growing season that can really motivate us and kind of add that extra little bit of energy in terms of the build up to the new growing season. So as a goal, you should try and find 3 new crops to grow every single year. And don't worry if they don't grow. My loofah's failed this year, but I'll just try it again next year. And it's always a joy when it actually turns out a success. One thing that I'm doing differently this year, which I think you should also consider, is trying to get your seed order in as early as possible. So for me, I'm aiming to get my order in before the 1st of January. I usually do mine kind of late January, early February, but last year, seed suppliers ran out quickly and it was really worrying. So it's really important to get ahead of the game and get your seeds ordered before next year, just to avoid any disappointment. But before doing that, there's 2 things that you need to do. The first thing you want to do is to make a note of all of the crops that you want to grow next year, and then using that list, cross-reference it with your seed storage to make sure if you have them, and then if you don't, you can put a little red dot as a reminder for you to go and get it. Now, one more thing I just want to quickly add: when you are ordering seeds, it's really easy to stick with the varieties that we know and we trust, and by all means stick with them. But with a few crops, try and find a completely different variety as well to grow, because not only are you going to be trying new crops, you're going to be trying new varieties. And you may find that there's a variety that outperforms the standard variety that you grow every single year. And by doing that, you're actually, in the long term, making your garden more and more productive. You've now got a list of crops that you want to grow next year. You've ordered the seeds that you need. The next thing to do is to make a planting plan. It's hard to imagine, but this is where the season starts for us. Now, it has since been abandoned. This is our propagation area, and it's something that we're going to actually be redoing and re-extending during this winter. But one of the things that you really have to do in order to have good efficiency next year is to make a planting plan. Now, I do love intuitive gardening, but I am going to be doing a hybrid this year. About 70% of the garden is going to be planned. The other 30% will just be open space for me just to do whatever I like. But for me, I feel that a planting plan actually acts as a gardening assistant, especially if it's a detailed one. Now, you can do an annual planting plan, and that will just show you roughly what's going to be happening and what's going to be planted in a single growing season. But what I like to do is to do a month by month planting plan, because this really is my personal gardening assistant. It helps me see and track exactly what is going to be happening every single month, so I can look ahead and make sure that I'm not going to miss out on planting anything or harvesting anything. It really does keep me in check. It holds me accountable, and that's often what I need. I did a video earlier this year actually that outlines the kind of core principles of doing a monthly planting plan, and so many people have found it useful. That's one of the things where I've had the most messages from people saying how effective it's been. So if you want to understand the basics of creating a monthly planting plan, then there'll be a video popping up just here. So here I'm just looking through the kale, and any of the poorer quality leaves I'm just going to remove, just to leave the nice leaves. And we've been spending this whole growing season focused around plants, for example kale and whatever else. There isn't too much left in the garden, and that's actually a good thing, because with the bleakness of winter it allows us to look at the garden more clearly in terms of the actual infrastructure. Winter gives us the opportunity to focus on how the garden works as a whole system, rather than just trying to worry about whether our plants are growing and if they're growing as healthy as possible. And something I like to do kind of around the end of December through to the first half of January is to do a garden checkup. Just like you go to a doctor for a checkup, make sure everything is working well, I like to apply the same principle to the garden. And I like to start firstly with the boundaries and then move inwards. The goal with the garden checkup is to simply prevent as many problems as possible arising at the start or during the next growing season. It's time to have a look closely at everything, all of the elements that contribute to us having a successful garden, to make sure they're all in check. And if not, because we're doing it kind of mid-winter, we still have plenty of time to get those fixed, rather than us trying to scramble and get everything sorted right at the start of the growing season, where all we want to focus our energy and attention on is actually getting seeds started and getting things in the ground. When you're doing a garden checkup, you have to get up close and personal. And for example, these fence posts, I like to just give them a wiggle to see if they're rotten or not. Now this one feels all right, so I'm going to test the next one and keep on working down the line. Now you might be able to hear that and see that this is rotten. So I've now got to make a note that this needs to be fixed before the start of the new growing season. For me, I like to grow in raised beds for lots of different reasons. The main one is that it's a set size that doesn't change, so it's very easy to work out how much of something I could potentially grow. But a downside of those, of raised beds, is that they do break apart, as you might have seen in previous videos. And these are the three oldest, the three that have deteriorated the most. So after doing the checkup, I've realised that these all need to be completely replaced. But I'm turning this into an opportunity. I'm going to be using these boards here and going to be creating 6 10 by 4 foot raised beds in the same space. You want to just keep on going around your garden, looking at everything such as your compost bins, your water infrastructure, undercover growing space, make sure there aren't any major tears or rips. And then by the end of this garden checkup, you'll have a list of jobs that you need to do to get ready for the next growing season. And if you can solve all of these, then chances are you're going to have a far less stressful spring and summer. What's the final thing that we can do as gardeners to have a really awesome growing season next year? Well, I've saved my favourite till last, and that is to simply consume as much content around things that you want to learn more about or are really interested in to do with gardening. So watch all of your favourite gardening YouTubers, read those gardening books that you've got, and research as much as possible. I love to just consume as much gardening content as possible during winter, because during spring and summer I'm really trying to focus as much as possible on gardening and I'm not looking for new things to try out then. So now is the ideal time to really let your imaginations run wild, because if you do go down that rabbit hole, chances are you're going to find some really cool things to grow and try out, and new methods to also test next year. There you have it. Those are 5 great things that you can do during winter to guarantee a really successful next growing season. So hopefully you found this video useful, and I'd love to hear of any thoughts or suggestions you might have in terms of what we can do as gardeners over winter, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Goodbye.